Welcome to another edition of the We Talk Chelsea podcast with Tom, Charlie, and Tem. Three blokes who just kick a ball around a pitch on a Sunday afternoon, united for a love of Chelsea Football Club. And there's never, ever a dull week to be a Chelsea fan. And this week is a shining example. Since we last recorded, we lost Graham Potter the night before. And then we were thinking, who we're going to bring in? Nagelsmann, who we're going to bring in? Is it Enrique? And then the return of Chelsea's all-time top scorer, Frank Lampard. I don't think any of us predicted that. Boys, what a week, eh? Another loss. I'm going to go out and let him say it's probably the worst loss of the season. I genuinely do, because I saw nothing. At least with the Leeds loss, we lost, was it 3-1 or something? Or 3-0? 3-0. At least for the first 20 minutes we had, looked like we might score. But yeah, it was absolutely atrocious. Anyway, let's dive straight in. First things first, I think we need to address the thing in the room. So Charlie and I attended the game it's my first away game. I was really excited. I appreciate Charlie and for getting me the ticket in that scenario. It was quite exciting to go to Molineux. I lived there in Wolves for 4 years, and I could hear the Wolverhampton chant pretty much every week from my bedroom. And it's nice to go there for the first time. So I appreciate you, Charlie. Let's address this situation. Lampard in. How are we feeling about this current appointment? What do we think about this situation? Is it the right decision to the end of the season? Do you think we should have just brought someone in straight away? Where do we stand? I'll go to Tem. Tem, how do you feel? Is Lampard the right man to lead us across the line to the end of the season?
That's a difficult question to answer. It depends what term you mean, lead us over the line.
Custodian until the end of the season. Realistically, I don't think any of us think he's going to get the job. Realistically. And the only way he could is if he wins the Champions League. And, there's more chances of me being able to fly. Let's face it. I mean, how do you feel about the appointment? Did you think it's the right decision by the club to hire an interim, or just go straight in for a Nagelsmann, for an Enrique, for a Pochettino? Who do you think is that the right call?
Emotionally, yes, I did feel that. But when I saw that Wolves game, it kind of reminded me why Lampard had to go in the first place. I didn't understand the lineup or anything he had to do with the game. Sorry to teed off about that, but in terms of, at first I thought, this makes logical sense. Get the fans back on side, appoint someone who's probably going to get the dressing room back together and just steady us out till the end of the season. But after seeing what I've seen the first game, I'm probably going to take that statement back and think it's not going to change anything. And to be honest, we might even be in a relegation battle if things don't improve. Because when I've seen our fixture list, it doesn't look good at all. And I don't see how anything changes right now.
I mean, looking at the fixture list, you are right. Realistically, the games that we could probably pick up points, you'd think on paper would be Bournemouth away, Forest at home, but we still have to go to Man United. We still have Brentford to come to us. Brighton still have to come to us. We still got to go to Arsenal. We've got to go to Man City, and Newcastle coming to us. Realistically, I mean, in terms of points total, we are closer to relegation than we are to top four. And I didn't think before the start of the season, I really, really didn't think that we would be anywhere near that. Charlie, how do you feel in regards to the appointment of Lampard at the start this week?
I think it just shows that the club aren't in a big rush to get someone in. They're gonna try and make a better, hopefully a better decision than they have, with the Tuchel and Potter fiasco and everything like that, and make sure they actually get the contracts right and get everything right. I think they also want to wait on. There's probably one or two managers who are in jobs at the moment who they might be interested in as well. They obviously expressed interest in a couple of guys that are sort of available straight away. But I think the likes of Ancelotti is one that I was chatting to quite a few lads on Saturday about, and that's one that I personally think is probably the best that we could get if he was available at the end of the season, which apparently he might be. I think with the Lampard thing, I think the club all they're doing with that really is basically putting their hands up and owning the Potter problem and trying to get the fans back on side. He won't be. I don't think he'll be in charge next season. I'd be very surprised. He'd have to do something. He would literally have to win the Champions League, which I just can't see happening at the moment. And hopefully he can galvanise the players. That's all you can ask from him. But it is what it is. I don't know. I don't think there's many other interim managers around anyway who've been better. So, it is what it is. The Potter gone, and I think that was the most important thing. Was just knowing in your head that going into 23-24 next season, Potter won't be managing that club. And I think that just that on its own doesn't matter if we lose every match at the end of the season, as long as we know that Potter's not going to be leading it and someone else is, and the club are taking their time over it. I think that just brings the whole fan base up a little bit.
Yeah, I think I have to agree with Dale. Like, you're completely baffled. Just seems an appointment to appease the fans, in my opinion. I have to agree. I think it is. You bring a club legend to kind of steady the ship until the end of the season. Nagelsmann, they don't want to paint this. If we do go for a Nagelsmann or an Enrique at the end of the season, they don't want that on their record. Do you know what I mean? That it will show Nagelsmann. Say, for example, we gave the job to Nagelsmann and he ended up getting in this first season, bringing us to 12th position. It's not the right decision to make. The optics of that does not look good. It's a kind of a win-win situation. It's like a free hit for Frank Lampard. Essentially, he needs to get back in the shop window again. And if he manages to pick up some points against some of these teams, it could show he still has the ability to manage at the Premier League level. Something I think his Everton tenure has done him no favours. I forgot my train of thought then where I was going to go with that. I had some questions that I lined up with it. You touched upon something there I thought was very wise, and I think at this point last week I was very much leaning towards Nagelsmann because I think he's a younger manager. He is a lot more in tune with what the players are after. He's proven in terms of he's won the Bundesliga, admittedly in the Bundesliga, with the Bayern Munich team that generally just walks the league every single year. But now, the more I think about it, the more I think I'd rather Nagelsmann went to Real Madrid and we got Ancelotti in, somebody that's got 25 years experience in managerial level, that the players he's gonna command the respect of the players straight away. There'll be no sort of calling him the nicknames behind his back like Harry and all that stuff that some of the players allegedly were doing. Where do you stand currently at the moment, Tembo? You think in terms of, are you still excited by the possibility of Nagelsmann, by Enrique, or do you think it might be something that we would need in terms of like an older head to kind of like guide the ship a little bit, something that goes away from the clear lake capital, bring in youth, try and grow with somebody, as opposed to we need somebody to kind of steady the ship, essentially?
Yeah, well, I don't see why both can't be true. I don't understand why we can't get another young manager to come in, maybe who's got a bit more experience like Nagelsmann. But he did also fall out with Neuer and I believe Lewandowski.
Yeah,
it was reported that he had a falling out with them. So maybe with our senior players, the same might happen. And we've seen it before where player power takes over and the manager's gone the next year. But in terms of getting a manager to steady the ship, I still think whatever manager comes in next season, top four would be a great achievement. It wouldn't be so easy as, Chelsea are back and we were suddenly in top four, because in previous seasons, maybe 5-6 years ago, we had Man United, Arsenal and Man City, you would say, and Liverpool were sort of just coming up, but now you've got the likes of Newcastle, Villa, everyone's sort of pushing for top six, so it's even harder now. There's probably 8-9 teams now who are good enough to get in that top four or top six, so whoever it is going to have a mammoth task, because I don't think a striker is just going to fix this team. I think we need goals all over the pitch, just not from our fullbacks and our striker, I think, and also leadership in our team. I think we do lack that. Something John Obi Mikel said. He said recently in an interview that Cesar Azpilicueta, he sees him as captain material, but he doesn't see him like as a true leader. He thinks he's quite a quiet person from obviously being played with him, but he thinks Chelsea need a proper captain, someone who will shout at everyone, get them on side. And a lot of people take a lot of people underrate what Henderson does at Liverpool. Although he's not that talented of a football player, he's a great leader, and I don't think we quite have that, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I have to agree. I mean, Dale makes a valid point here. If we go young with somebody like Nagelsmann, I think an experienced number two would be ideal. The problem is who's realistic? I remember you saying, Temba, a couple of weeks back, like there's not many managers that wouldn't want to take the Chelsea job. But if you're an up and coming manager at this point in your career, do you take the risk? I mean, Charlie, put yourself in your shoes. You're Julian Nagelsmann. Do you take the risk of going on to at the very start of a project and take that risk, or do you think it's something that Ancelotti would be better suited to do?
Well, Ancelotti, as far as I know, he's never failed at a job ever. Like you could never consider any of his jobs.
Some could argue Everton. Some would argue Everton.
No, but nobody else did any better after that. I mean, so it was they're obviously just not good enough. And he left of his own accord. He wasn't actually there long enough to maybe do what he wanted to do in the first place and turn it around. So he never got sacked from Everton, did he? I think he went straight to Real Madrid.
Real Madrid poached him. Yeah.
So I think with Ancelotti, he's won the Premier League, he's won the Serie A, he's won the Bundesliga, he's won everything, hasn't he? Basically, he's won pretty much every single European league. He's won the Champions League probably about 5 times or something in various different guises. So I honestly think he's probably the best manager in the world, or he's up there. He's in the top 3 without a doubt. And I've got a funny feeling that maybe this Nagelsmann I don't think he was expecting to get sacked in the first place.
No.
And if it was me, you don't. He's not going to be short of money, so he doesn't need to go back into work straight away. And if that was me, moving all your family to London and take on this job that is right in the middle of a season, high pressure job. Maybe he just says, look, I want to wait till the summer and assess my options. There's only 8 games left of the season. I just want to wait and see what's on the market, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it might not be a bad thing. It might be a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, I think specifically for optics, I think that's generally something that is likely going to be the case. You can't just give something a job to somebody at this point in the season. I think you don't want to have that tarnished by Nagelsmann. What we can do, boys, we've chatted about the manager situation. There's not much we can do in this scenario, but we can talk about lineups. We can talk about the game just gone. As previously mentioned, Charlie and I were in attendance at Molineux at the weekend. Excitement for the return of Frank Lampard in the concourse. We've got Soupy Frankie Lampard. He knows exactly what we need. Thiago in the back, no one in attack. Chelsea going to win the Champions League. How are we feeling? When that team sheet was announced, I showed it to you, Charlie, and we were like, okay, well, it looks like he's playing 4 at the back. And then we scrolled even further and went, and there's no Mason Mount either. And I thought, oh my gosh, this doesn't look like a Frank Lampard team. 4 at the back does, but it didn't. We fully expected Mason Mount to feature at the weekend. 4 at the back for us, in my opinion, just it does not work. It does not work at all. Yeah, Charlie, talk me through when you saw that lineup. How did you feel? I mean, initially, you and I were quite positive about the game. Maybe just the excitement, the adrenaline of actually being there. But how did you feel in terms of when you saw that lineup being announced?
Yeah, I mean, it was bizarre, to be honest, because we've been playing better since. I mean, Potter's tried the 4 at the back thing, and didn't work. Tuchel tried it this season, didn't work. And it's the same. I mean, yeah, okay, there's a few new signings, but basically it's the same bunch of players. And they just don't see it. They seem to be better equipped, and they have the player power in the positions in a 3-5-2 system or whatever. The 2 wing backs. I think one of the issues was obviously Chilwell. I'm guessing that he rested him because he's been playing a lot recently. I'm guessing that's why Cucurella came in. But even Cucurella, I think he's more effective in that on that sort of as a wing back, because there's less for him to do, if you know what I mean, defensively, and he's so bad defensively.
Yeah,
I mean, he's bad all round, to be honest. But at least if he makes a mistake going forward, it doesn't matter as much. You just lose the ball. Whereas he makes a mistake defensively, it ends up in a goal half the time. So I was pretty surprised by that, and also Gallagher starting was a bit strange, I thought. Pardon me. And also Aubameyang not starting, I thought was a bit strange as well. But then I suppose he hasn't played for so long. So
yeah,
what else can we do?
I mean, we saw Aubameyang come from the bench, and in my opinion, for a player that's not played for, I think it was just over a month, he kind of wanted to get involved. He was chasing down balls. He had that shot that was blocked by, I think, Kilman. It looked like he wanted to be involved. The downside to that is he can't play on Wednesday. So, that's the other issue we have. And Badiashile as well. Like, it was so bizarre that Badiashile is not in the Champions League squad. So why wouldn't you protect somebody Koulibaly and then play Badiashile alongside Fofana if you're going to do the four at the back situation? I don't understand what Badiashile's done to not warrant be putting in the squad, because I think he hasn't featured now for a few weeks. And then also Fofana, he's there as well. You want to protect Fofana, but at the same time, you also have Trevor Chalobah as well, who featured quite frequently under Frank Lampard. He thought with the massive squad that we have, you would have thought rotation would have been key, especially with it would appear, in my opinion, N'Golo Kante being rested for Wednesday's game.
Yeah, and I think as well, like that there's he's obviously got one eye on Wednesday for obvious reasons. But the other thing that really did my head in about that match is it was a really bad performance. It was bad, it was probably worse than anything I've seen under Potter, to be honest. I think it was that bad, and I didn't think it could get any worse. And but knowing in your head that you've got that match on Wednesday. And these players, some of them aren't going to play, but probably most of those players on that pitch have certainly got a good chance of playing on Wednesday or featuring at some point. You think they'd give it a go? The new manager coming in, they've got no guarantee of their place in the team. Do you know what I mean? They don't know. Lampard's going to have his favourites. He's going to have his trusted players, probably a lot of them from before. And they just didn't. It's. I don't know whether it's their fault or whether it's just. I can't work it out because they do try a little bit, some of them. They do. They don't just sort of, but they just don't get 50-50s. That's what annoys me. It's the 50-50s, it's the duels, it's the battles, it's the and it's just the fluidity of the play. It's just like they don't know what they're doing. They just don't have any style or any.
I was stood next to an Irish bloke who looks like he's been going to Chelsea for years, and he was saying, like, we're winning no 50-50 balls. We're not winning the second ball at all. Everything is always falling to the foot of a Wolverhampton player. There's no kind of oomph to kind of get in possession. I think what might be good in this scenario, we know that it was terrible, but let's kind of break things down a little bit, and let's kind of look at each individual section of the squad and go kind of decide how we feel that the player performed. If it warrants them having another appearance, what we'll do is we'll throw across the Temba. Now, Temba, you've been somebody that's been critical of Kepa in the past in terms of like his perceived weakness when it comes to long shots and lack of height in a scenario. How do you feel Kepa performed in the game? Do you feel like the goal was a rocket? Do you feel that he could have done better?
Looking at it microscopically, maybe I was being a bit too harsh. He probably couldn't have done anything about that. The shot was gone past him before he could see it. However, I have often said he does make a lot of shots look unsavable. And what I mean by that is you saw yesterday like Ramsdale saves in the Arsenal game. I don't know.
I've not seen match of day 2 yet. I've literally not watched it back. So
there's a shot that takes a deflect. Salah inside the box, in about the 18-yard box on the right-hand side, and he curls one in, and it takes a deflection, and it looks like it's looped over the goalkeeper, and Ramsdale makes a crucial save and a world-class save, basically, as it was going in the top corner. And then another one where I think Salah was in the 6-yard box and he passed it across the goal, and Konate tried to test it in.
Yeah.
And Ramsdale's just clawed across his line and basically palmed it out.
Yeah.
And it's kind of those sort of scenarios where I look at Kepa and I think to myself, there's not many times where I say to myself, "Oh, Kepa, what a save! He had no right to get to that." Yeah. And a lot of the times it's, "Oh, that shot was unsavable. Oh, this shot was just not reachable by him." And in a season, I feel like you need your goalkeeper to get you at least 8 to 9 points, something around that.
Yeah.
And maybe this season he's been okay, but I think that's more largely down to defense. And whenever he has actually been tested, well, we know that it's going to be a goal. Apart from maybe the Villa game away, where I could really say, yeah, he earned us those points. I just feel like he's just not good enough. But on Saturday, I don't think we could really blame him for anything.
Yeah, I think
his distribution was poor.
Yeah,
but I don't know whether he was under.
Add to that.
Yeah, go on.
I don't think that was down to him. I think that's more manager's instructions because of the setup we were in. I think we were under a lot of pressure, but at the same time, we couldn't really find anyone with the long balls. We were mainly hitting the wingers, which I found strange, not mainly Havertz. And even when it did hit Havertz, it never stayed. So I don't really think we can really blame him for that because the team have been playing a back three quite a lot recently, and I think they've sort of used to that. So I found it strange when Lampard said that his lineup and his selection, he left it down to the players to decide, mainly.
Which is bizarre, really, when you think about it. Because why would you play a formation that you're not particularly comfortable with?
Exactly. And, we as well know from the outside looking in that Cucurella is just not a good fullback, and half these players don't look good in a back four. I mean, we've seen how bad Kepa was under Lampard when we conceded, I think it was 56 goals in that Premier League season or whatever it was, something ridiculous like that. And I just didn't get why he went with that. But on Kepa anyway, I don't think he really played that bad.
Yeah. Well, let's move forward to the back four. So we had Reece James, we had right back Fofana on the right side of the central pairing, Koulibaly, and we'll no doubt get to Cucurella. Let's go to defence. So Charlie, you were probably in the prime position for Cucurella in the first half. You were second row in that left back position. You had the opportunity to see him within about 10 metres. I know you haven't been particularly nice about Cucurella's performances recently, Dortmund exception, but how did you feel that his performance was in the game? And, probably just going to add further to he's just not good enough to be a backup for Ben Chilwell.
He's just not good enough to play for Chelsea, I'm afraid. You're not going to win titles with him at left back. And he's, I think he does put effort in. I don't think he's lazy or anything like that. I think he tries, but it's like what I was saying to a few of the lads on Saturday. It's like hot potato, isn't it? He gets the ball and all he wants to do is release it. As soon as he doesn't want the ball at his feet. He doesn't really make himself available. He just wants to get that ball and just move it on as quickly as he can. And that's why he plays so many bad passes. He doesn't really know what he's doing defensively. And he just, I don't know whether it sounds really bad, but I don't know whether it just looks like a hopeless kind of bloke at the moment. Just the way I don't know if it's his hair or what, but it just kind of looks like a sort of it's like a
I mean, I got frustrated. I was sat on that. I was sat the other side of the and the lower tier, and I was sat on the other side, so I was able to see like him from an attacking perspective up hand, and there were so many opportunities for passes to be made beyond the defender into Joao Felix, and to a lesser extent Kai Havertz. Even a few occasions saw Conor Gallagher try and bomb forward. There was definitely an opportunity to pass that ball forward for them to run onto it. Yes, you might run the risk of losing possession, but a progressive pass. I feel like Cucurella, I'm so fed up of seeing him trapping the ball and then passing it back to the centre back, because it happens all too often. It feels like a lot of these players are so scared to lose possession. And Cucurella is probably like a big culprit for that. When it comes to defending, the standout defender for ourselves is usually Reece James. But in my opinion, I thought he had quite a quiet game, and I don't think he was defensively. He was all right in terms of clearing a couple of headers, but we don't get the best of Reece James in that right back position, do we?
Yeah, it's quite weird. I think. I'm not sure. Even as a right wing back, sometimes I think he stops the play quite a lot. He likes to, take a ball to his feet and cut back and maybe play it a bit safe too much. But again, I'm not quite sure, because that right back, when I saw the average positions, he was quite high up actually, and he does leave a lot of space behind. But Fofana, I think defensively is so much better than Koulibaly, so it did kind of help out. You saw that one amazing last-ditch tackle he did, Fofana, sorry. But in the last maybe month, I don't think we've seen a good Reece James, to be honest. I don't know if it's just form, maybe it's just the team playing bad and it's affecting him. I'm not quite sure, but yeah, we haven't really seen the best of Reece James lately.
I think for me, it has to be the fact that he's not playing in the right wing back position. Three at the back is how we play. Like, it's definitely how we get the best out of our squad, with Reece James playing and Ben Chilwell playing. The issue that we have is those players together, they've only played less than 10 times together in the last couple of years. And having that three at the back, which it blew my mind as to why Maddsion didn't start. I fully expected him to start as part of a back three with Fofana and Koulibaly, maybe even Trevor Chalobah if they wanted to rest Koulibaly, because he has played a lot of games. Let's talk about the centre-back pairing in terms of Fofana and Koulibaly. Charlie, how did you feel Koulibaly performed? In my opinion, I thought he kind of grew into the game, but then there were certain periods towards the back end of the game where he started to look a bit the Koulibaly of old, like not really wanting to be on the ball and kind of put under that pressure. How did you feel he came across on Saturday?
Yeah, I think I do think he's getting better. I wasn't a fan of him at all, to be honest, at the beginning of the season. I'd seen
you kept that quiet, Charlie.
No, I didn't, because I really thought he was bad, and I thought he was. I didn't think his effort was necessarily there either, but I think he does make quite a few good tackles. He's not that great on the ball, and he shouldn't be. They should never be in a situation like they were against Villa where they give him the com at the back. That's just you can't do that with him. He's got to play alongside Fofana or Silva or someone. Someone's got to tell him what to do, because he should not be telling other people what to do, because he doesn't know what to do himself. And that's that's the truth. He's not in this league. Maybe he's done that in. I didn't really watch him before he came here, but maybe he does that over in Serie A or whatever. But in this league, he's not quite there in terms of being able to organise a defence, if you know what I mean. He can but he doesn't seem to get booked as much now like he used to, and he doesn't seem to commit as many fouls. The tackles he seems to win the tackles more now. He didn't seem to, and he wins the aerial battles. He's very good in the air. Give him that. Like you need someone like that at the back, especially against these physical teams. And they need these defenders who can guarantee to win the battles. And I suppose he's a vague threat from a corner, isn't he? He's scored one goal. I mean, it doesn't sound like a lot, but that's probably 10% of the goals we've scored all season. So
exactly.
Probably one of the top scorers.
It just highlights just how integral Thiago Silva is to Chelsea at the moment.
Yeah,
the fact that we've got a 38-year-old player that's arguably our best player across the whole season, who hasn't played in the last 3 weeks. Thankfully, had his first day back in training today. So, hopefully in the next, even if we get him towards the back end of the season, we might try and get some points. If we can scrape a couple of draws against some of these big games, he's going to be needed. He really will. It just highlights how important Thiago Silva is. And unfortunately, he's not a long-term person. Even Koulibaly isn't long-term. He's 31 years old. Maddsion and Fofana, they're the ones we should be looking towards. Even Levi Colwell, doing fantastically at Brighton at the moment, is another player that we have to look forward to coming back in that centre-back position. Let's move across the midfield. It was Gallagher, Kovacic, and Enzo. Yes, of course, the British record transfer. We've kind of touched upon Gallagher. I'm now. It pains me to say, but I'm now leaning on the point where I've not seen any improvement since the start of the season. Like, he runs for days, and he's got a yellow card in him when he gets frustrated. He's a pretty surefire. If you want to put a £5 on Conor Gallagher to get a yellow card, you are going to win every single time. Let's face it. He runs for days, but the problem is there's no end product. There's nothing to Gallagher, and I wish there was. But how do you feel kind of the midfield performed as the three? Tem, we had Kante come back the week before, and he slotted in perfectly against Liverpool, and then he was taken straight back out the side, and we all look worse for it.
Could you just pull up Dale's comment about the Maddsion at left back? I think it coincides with my.
Yeah, of course. So wonder if Maddsion at left back would enable a back four, because then Reece James would be able to bomb forward, and we can have three centre backs, because Fofana and Thiago Silva have to be in the team.
Yeah. So about that sort of is how we get a lopsided defence. I see what you mean, because Man City do it so well, but I don't feel like we have the players to facilitate that, especially in midfield as well. I think a lot of our players defending in space are very bad. And coming back, you think of Kovacic and maybe even Kante, whoever, Gallagher, whoever is in midfield. They're often way too high. And the problem is that when they're high, they don't score goals. So if we lose possession and turn it over, which Havertz does quite a lot, Sterling sometimes does quite a lot, we're just left with, a lot of empty space in behind. And as well, we know the likes of James and Koulibaly aren't really good at defending space, I feel. None of them have really got that recovery pace. So you think the likes of other teams where Kyle Walker, Andy Robertson, Van Dijk, Konate can get back and make that tackle. I don't quite feel like we have that. So we would be just left open anyway. And in terms of our midfield, I just felt like they're just not on the same wavelength. I think Enzo is too good of a player compared to Gallagher. I think he can keep the ball very well. He knows how to pass into space, how to move into space to receive the ball. Whereas Gallagher's like the complete opposite. He's got the engine, but he's got nothing about him. Like he doesn't exactly know where to be. And I think that's kind of why Frank Lampard brought him in. He thought, we're away against Wolves at 3:00 kickoff. We need someone who's going to be up for the fight. And unfortunately, yes, Gallagher was, but he just isn't talented enough to actually help us play football. Yeah. And I feel like that was kind of it. When you're sort of against these teams of, Wolves or any Burnley or anyone who's just going to give you a tough game, you kind of need to frustrate them. Just make sure you keep the ball, keep knocking it around so that they're wasting a lot of energy. And unfortunately, it was Gallagher really wasting a lot of energy because he didn't help us in the slightest.
Yeah, I thought the midfield at the weekend was very, very, very poor, with the exception of Enzo. I mean, I think it's one thing we got to consider, Charlie, is, we were there. I stayed till the end. I caught up with you afterwards, but, all the players walked across to the fans, gave the customary clap, but one player that didn't was kind of apparent and stayed. The other side of the pitch was, Kovacic, a man that we're looking like he's probably going to go in the summer. I mean, do you persist trying to make Enzo and Kovacic work if he's just going to be off in the summer? Do you think he's going to be a good fit? Do you think he's a player that we need to play in this scenario? Do we need to think, okay, well, Kante's going to come back, we're going to have Enzo back, and then we've got other centre midfielders that we're trying to bring into the team? Like, do you feel we need to kind of stick with Kovacic alongside Kante or Enzo? What do you think in terms of the Kovacic issue?
It's weird because I think he will go, but he's. I don't know if there's any particular team who are after him, as far as I know. I just think he's just given up. Yeah, I think he just needs a change. But at the same time, he was terrible on Saturday, but then at the same time, he has occasionally come in with some half decent performances over the last few weeks. So. He just blows very hot and cold, that guy, at the moment. Probably because his like you say, his mind's halfway on the continent or whatever. But I don't know. I mean, I'll be honest, Enzo he was all right, but he wasn't. Nothing to write home about, I'm afraid. He wasn't. Probably. I think it was probably his worst game for Chelsea so far. That one.
I think it's harsh to say worst game for Chelsea. I think it's just because everybody else around him. Yeah, I think everyone else around him was so poor that when he does something well, you think, oh, thank God, he's managed to trap a ball and put a aggressive pass forwards. I think that's why he stood out to me. Dale makes a good point here. So I think we ought to see him at the best three in the middle for this to happen will be Enzo, Kante, and Mount if he's fit. Mount is fit. He's just not being played because he's not signing the contract. Let's face it. I don't even think we should be playing with three in the middle. I don't think we should. I think we should be sticking with Enzo and Kante when he's fit, and they should be the two that should be always played week in, week out. James Chilwell either side with the three at the back. We touched.
Can I just add to that? I still don't think that's good enough either.
How so?
I think that leaves the middle too exposed as well. I know a lot of people like Kante and what he does in midfield, but I don't think Enzo can hold down the midfield if Kante goes up hunting for the ball. I still think we need a defensive midfielder, someone like Zacharias stature, which again I'm surprised of why he hasn't got more game time, because he's actually been very solid whenever he's played, and he's brought a bit of steel to the midfield, which I think we still miss, because you see how many games do we lose 50-50s, or like we've just been talking about, or just someone who's able to hold off players and just drive through that midfield. I think Loftus-Cheek is the closest thing to that, and he's not even any good at that anymore.
So do you think that? So do you think what might be best done to accommodate that is to have somebody sit in that position? Let's just say Zachariah was able to play. We play with Enzo, Kante either side. Do we then think, do you know what, we've actually got an attacking team, attacking players that aren't attacking well? Do you just think, okay, instead of playing three or persistent to play with three, do we just go, okay, we can play two? We'll just play two because we need to try and get control of that midfield. So do you think realistically it would be like a back three with Chilwell and James Bond up on the wings, Zachariah, Enzo, Kante, and then two front players up front? Because let's face it, the attackers at the moment, why we're persisting with three continuously, that's the one consistent thing each and every week, is always three up the top, and it's just not working at all. Like three at the top, it doesn't matter, manager, it's not working. And Saturday's game is a shining example. One shot on target, and that's from Joao Felix in the first half, straight towards Jose Sá. I mean, Charlie, how do you feel? How do we solve the problem with attack? Do we just do 4-5-1 and then one just running endlessly, constantly at the top of the pitch? How do you feel we resolve this issue? Because three isn't working. We can talk about defence and midfield all we want, but attack isn't working at all.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I said that last week. I don't understand why we don't play two up top. And the thing is, if you're playing the two wing backs and you've got three in midfield, all of a sudden Enzo can bomb on a bit. He's got a bit more license to bomb on. You've got these two coming from that wing, and then you've got the two in the middle, not just hanging in the sidelines. I mean, some of that on Saturday, some of that front play was criminal. I thought some of it. God, I mean, like Sterling, that bit where he could have just passed it, and he somehow decided to run with it. I mean, it was bizarre, and then cut it back to Gallagher. I mean, what was that all about? Didn't make any sense. The pass was on, and it would have been a goal, 100%. And that's what he's meant to be good at. That is Sterling. These sort of balls from City. He used to the amount of assists he used to get doing those sort of balls. And even Havertz would have finished that. I mean, or Felix or whoever was in the middle. No, I know, but it was an open goal virtually. I mean, it's like that's what I mean. So. I mean, Fazan says, what do I think of Havertz? He's the only option we've got at the moment. We're going into this match on Wednesday, and we've got Aubameyang who's not allowed to play because he's not in the squad, and that Broja guy's injured. So that is it. He gets in by default.
Can we pretty much? I think he does only get in by default. Let's face it. I can't remember if I've said it on the podcast or not. I've just messaged you privately, but I think the only reason Havertz plays is because he's 6'2". If he was 5'9", he would not be playing each and every week. That is the only reason, because we have no height in this team. Look at every corner, every free kick we have, we've got three men in the box, and we've got four midfielders peppered around the edge of the box. Because they're just waiting for that box to, because they know they're not going to win the header. They're just not, and they're waiting for that ball to drop off, and it's a big problem. And defending corners against Chelsea, I would, if they're playing us, I'd love to play defending a corner against Chelsea if I was a centre back in the Premier League, because they offer no kind of attacking threat at all in that scenario.
And I think we've lost that a lot from last season. You think how many goals our defenders and centre backs contributed towards those set pieces? I think we've dropped off massively.
100%. Quiet game as well for Joao Felix as well. I think he was kind of, I was on that left side. I saw him making those runs in behind. Players just weren't finding him, or they're not, taking that risky pass to him. How do we feel at the moment? Are we still thinking? I know, Temba, you were thinking it should be a player that we sign. But is he the person that's going to be banging in the goals, creating the assists? The problem is we don't have an out-and-out striker that he's really can give us an audition to make those passes too. That's the problem we have. Charlie, I mean, Felix, Sterling was poor on Saturday. I think it's the worst I've ever seen Sterling play, potentially ever. And I don't even think that's particularly harsh, because I think he was bodied off the ball so many times by the Wolves fullback. I think his name was Totti. I think his name is. He was the Wolves left back had an incredible game, and I don't think it was just down to Raheem Sterling. But, him pocketing Raheem Sterling. I just think Raheem Sterling was that bad. He made him look that good.
Yeah, I mean, the only time that we looked like scoring, in my opinion, was right at the end, and that just sums up Chelsea, doesn't it? We get to this desperate state right at the end where we need a goal, and I don't know whether I'm right in saying this because I don't know if it came across on the TV, but Reece James seemed to bomb down that wing a hell of a lot in the last 5 minutes, roughly. He seemed to get right down the byline a lot, and I think what happened is, my theory is that they went to a 3-5-3. They put Chilwell at the back, basically, because Chilwell didn't get up much. He did sort of towards the end. Mudryk as a left wing back or something like that. They did something. I don't know quite, or maybe it was a transition format, like a formation where Reece James, if Chilwell's up, he drops back and vice versa. Because Reece James right at the end, he got in some really, really good looking positions, and I think Chilwell did right at the end as well. He got right to the byline, so he must have done something.
I think the problem with Reece James at that point in the 88th, 89th minute, he's probably tired. He's probably a bit gassed. He's not going to want to take those surging runs and take players on. You need to utilise him earlier on in the game. But chaps, it was an absolutely dreadful performance. Probably the worst that we've seen this season. We've got. Luckily, we're only going to the Bernabeu on Wednesday, so thankfully it should be an easy kind of win there, let's face it. So Faizan there saying, we feeling confident against Madrid. If I was to put it in one word, it would be no. I mean, let's try and put our optimistic hats on. What's the best that we can hope to get from this? Is that we're beaten very, very by 1-0, 2-0? Is that the best? Because I don't think I've not spoken to a single Chelsea fan that thinks that we're going to get anything from this game.
Go on, Charlie. You go first.
I mean, I look, if we play like we did on Saturday, it could really be a humiliation. I honestly believe that. I think Real Madrid could easily put 5 past us. They're good at scoring goals. That's the thing. They are good at. They have goals in them. So they proved at Anfield. They beat Barcelona 4-0 the other day or something as well. So they can score a good amount of goals. And the other thing as well, they're ruthless. Real Madrid. They will not be. They will remember what happened last season when we nearly we beat them, didn't we, at the Bernabeu? Beat them 3-2 on the night. Yeah. Unfortunately, we lost the first leg 3-1, but we took it to them. We had them on the ropes at one point. So to say these are the same players, they will remember that. They will not be taking they will not be taking us lightly. They won't be looking at it and going, let's Chelsea are playing badly at the moment. We should walk this one. I think that if they smell blood, they will want to rattle this off in the first leg. They will want, they will not stop until the 90th minute. And that's why I think if we're 2 or 3-0 down at half time, it could be a cricket score. Honestly, it really could. I really believe that.
Yeah, I agree. I will watch it, but I'm not looking forward to watching it. Let's kind of think. So let's think back. So we had the game on Saturday. It was absolutely atrocious. We all have our ideas how we feel like Chelsea should play. Let's try and look at potentially a starting 11 that we have. We can't use Aubameyang, which, frankly, we don't have a number 9 is silly, and that's down to Potter. It's his decision, but we have to live with that. We move. How do we feel that we should line up on Saturday? We can't use Balishi there as well. That's another issue. Let's start from, the only player that realistically, Mendy back on the bench, but I don't think Mendy's going to be the person that we're going to play at the Bernabeu for the first time since coming back from his injury. Kepa's unfortunately going to have the starting goal. How do you think we should line up? Do you think we should? I personally think go to the back 3, have Fofana try and nullify Vinicius Junior as much as he possibly can, and then who do you get on Benzema? Benzema this month has been on fire.
Yeah.
How do we line up? But to try and get anything from this game, short of us playing, 9 at the back, playing 9-1 with Havertz up top doing fuck all. Sorry for swearing.
I think we go James as a wing back, Chilwell as the other wing back. a back three of Kukurea, Koulibaly, and Fofana. Midfield, Enzo, Kante, and Kovacic, and probably Felix and Sterling up front, I would go with.
So that's interesting you say that, because when we were having the discussion about 5 minutes ago, I was thinking, well, I'd be intrigued to see Sterling play as a false nine. I think he prefers drifting out on the line, but if you have Felix and Sterling, to be able to pull those players apart and effectively play as a two, pulling people wide with no kind of out and out centre forward, I think it'll be very, very interesting to see. And I think I'm inclined to agree. With that being my chosen preferred, I would like to see Havertz not play a game. As harsh as it is, I'd like to see what he looked like coming on. Charlie, I mean, how do you feel? How do you think it'd be something that we've been line up at the weekend? Not the weekend, on Wednesday.
Yeah, I think it'll be pretty much the same for me. Apart from, I don't want to see Cucurella again. Though I'd prefer Chalobah. I think. I don't know. I just that guy just makes me nervous for in a match like this. Like and if it's his mistake that leads to a goal or a penalty or he gets a red card, it'll just really annoy me because so I would say probably Chalobah, even though Chalobah makes me nervous, to be honest, because in these big games, was it last season against Real Madrid? He completely messed up for one of their goals, didn't he? Was it him?
I can't remember.
I thought it was that the one where he headed it on the ground or something. He just missed the ball and then Benzema just took it past the keeper. I think it was that match.
It might have been.
It was. I'm sure it might. I'm pretty sure he did. So he'll get the shivers with Benzema around. The only good thing is you got Fofana, who's looking good. He can probably take care of Benzema. But I mean, that midfield, Real Madrid's midfield is so strong. You have to put three in there. There's no way two are going to deal with Mudryk. I mean, you saw Liverpool; they tried that, and they put that young kid in. He just got pulled apart. But Mudryk can really punish you. If you give him space.
I think for me, it's got to be a back three, and it's got. Well, we're kind of tied. It would have been Badiashile, but for reasons we can't fathom, he's not going to be there. But I think for me, I'd like to see Cucurella not involved at all. I think if it was me, Trevor Chalobah, just in terms of a pace perspective, Fofana, and then Koulibaly. But the issue you have there is you've got Koulibaly being the linchpin in that back three, essentially. And we all know that that's not something that he's best suited to. So who do you play in that position? Do you sacrifice him, putting him out on the left, and then having? I mean, who would you play? Fofana there, and there's the linchpin. But the problem is Fofana likes to travel forwards with the ball. I'd say Reece James and Chilwell. These are pretty much the only locked-in ones here. And again, I have to agree, three in the middle. But I'd quite like to see Zachariah start. I think I'd like to see him. And basically, just been said like your job here is. Do you remember that? Do you remember the game? Like you see all this footage all the time from it was a game where Man United played Juventus. And Sir Alex Ferguson, he made the decision to park G Sung. He says, right, you're playing the whole game. You're not to be within less than 2 yards from Andre Pirlo. And that was the whole thing. I want Zachariah in there. And he says, you just stay continuously on Mudryk. You do not let him get involved at all. Try and nullify him and say, that's your thing. You get the ball, you pass it off. You're the anchor. That's what you're going to do. You do that. And then either side, Enzo and Kante. Kante's try and break up the play, try and formulate a counter-attack. Yeah, and I'd like to see either... I mean, I've seen some of the comments Dale here put. I think it was put in Mudryk to use his pace. The problem is Mudryk. He looks kind of short on confidence. If I'm completely honest, I think if of a player, he's got the pace, but he doesn't have the strength. He doesn't have the strength yet. He's got to get that Bayern Munich program, or suddenly get asthma and get all those inhalers so he can take those legal steroids. What? Yeah, I think Felix and Sterling, I think it'd be 5 at the back in defence with 3 in the middle, and then in transition it'd be 3-5-2. I think it'd probably be the best option. It'd be interesting to see.
Actually, what Dale does make an interesting point is I kind of see Mudryk very similar to Martinelli. And if you saw Martinelli yesterday, how he was used, he wasn't used mainly on the ball.
Yeah.
He was sort of the outlet guy of let him go 1v1 against the fullback. However, how we've seen Mudryk so far, he can't trap a ball. So I know Chelsea aren't as good as Arsenal in possession. So we would need a lot of times for Mudryk to be able to hold off defenders and take a good touch and give it past to a player. And I think Sterling is probably our best player in terms of receiving the ball back to goal.
Yeah,
I think
which is crazy because he's 5'7" and weighs nothing.
Exactly. And Havertz, I think he's just too slow in the mind on the ball. You know, he takes the ball and
Too
thinks he
slow
has
in the
10 minutes.
He is.
Yeah.
He is. It's
I mean,
as if
I'm not
he's playing
disputing it, but
in
I'm
slow
not
motion
disputing
all the
it.
time.
I'm not disputing it, but yeah, I've never heard it phrased as too slow in the mind. I love it. That's what I'm going to use going forward.
Yeah. Well, he is. He just thinks he has like 10 years to take a touch and turn around. But you know, you're at the Bernabeu and players are just going to be on you just like that. Especially Rudiger, who knows him so well.
Yeah. Oh God,
you
yeah,
know,
Rudiger.
Yeah, he's going to be up for this. David Alaba's going to be up for this. He's won Champions Leagues. They're all experienced players. So I think we need someone, you know, quite experienced like Sterling. I think Mudryk would offer something, maybe coming off the bench if we're winning 1-0, to sort of stretch the game and, you know, give them something to think about. But again, yeah, I think we need experience in a game like this. We shouldn't go in naive thinking we should start someone like Mudryk when we know he hasn't been good so far.
I think the other thing that people, sorry to interrupt, the other thing that people forget, this is the first leg and it's the away leg, right? So look, if we're actually going to win this over 2 legs, we can't go at the Bernabeu thinking we're going to be setting up to win the match. Simple as that. We basically need to look at their strengths and look at how they'll be on the front foot for most of it. There's no, they'll have nearly all the possession. We need to nullify that. So they need to look at Vinicius Jr. and go, right, how are we going to stop this guy? We maybe just let them have possession because he's always going to beat everyone for pace. You can't commit. Reece James can't commit too far forward for that reason. There's, maybe Koulibaly certainly can't be anywhere near Vinicius Jr. I mean, that'd be a travesty. But then again, who do you put there? So there's going to be intricate details, I think, that will depend on who they start and how they play and everything like that, and who they put on each side and stuff like that. But basically, we don't need to worry too much about scoring. I don't think. What's more important is to try not to concede. At least,
Well, I think we will concede. Probably keeping the score down to less than 3 goals.
Yeah, basically, at least at least next week, is there going to be a match at Stamford Bridge? That's the key, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's basically that is what you do in the Champions League. You just got to take it to that home leg and do what you can. So we'll see.
It's like what Dale said. The only way we're going to get a goal and nick a goal at the Bernabeu is not through Havertz. It just isn't. He's, we need that pacing behind him. Mudryk, Sterling's, Felix, they're the ones that are more likely to kind of get that goal on the counter attack, and that's how we're definitely going to have to try and play. If we do score, something that we've not done many, many times this season.
I think Lampard would have to be the most integral part of this if we are to win this game, because I don't think we're the 2012 team that can sort of just dig in for the result. I think he needs to be the architect behind of why we actually win.
Yeah. I think one thing that I did like, I will say one positive I will take away from the loss on Saturday is Lampard wasn't afraid to make the substitutions earlier. I think we've seen the last couple of managers, they wait a little bit too long to try and make those changes. And I think I was speaking to the bloke next to me, or might have been Charlie as well, probably said it twice to be fair, and said it would be nice to see a manager that just has the balls to say after 45 minutes, you know what, it isn't working. That's on me. Let's change it and make the changes now. Make 2 changes that you need. Change the shape there and then not persist with the same stuff. Koulibaly was overrun constantly by Nunes on that right side. It would be so nice to see Lampard set up well, or even if he's had that moment and said, this isn't working, and he pulls someone off after 30, not like that, substitute somebody off after 30 minutes. It'd be interesting to do that, and I think Lampard's going to be key for that. He's got that game management in him as a player, but this will be a massive test to see if he's got it as a manager. And let's face it, he got Chelsea to the knockout stages when he was manager last time. He just never had the opportunity to showcase himself in that level. So it'd be interesting to see now he's picking up a team that's gone through the Tuchels and the Potters. So it'd be quite an interesting thing.
Yeah, but then the year before he got battered 3-0 at home to Munich, didn't he? So
it was Munich, to be fair.
Yeah, but this is Real Madrid. And this is what I'm trying to say. These are the champions. They know what they're doing, and they beat Liverpool 5-2 at Anfield, and they beat them away, didn't they? They beat them at their place 1-0 as well. So they're not. I mean, I know Liverpool aren't having a great season either, but we'd certainly know better. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. So one thing would be interesting to see is if Lewis Hall gets anywhere near the bench anytime soon.
I was just about to say that.
Lewis Hall, he's another defensive option that we have there. If Chilwell's kind of like nursing some sort of injury or got some muscular discomfort, why can't we turn to Lewis Hall in that position? Every time he plays well. Yes, he's not got the composure that some of the players will have, and he's inclined to make a mistake just due to simply his age. But every time he comes and plays, he plays well. Like, why aren't we seeing Lewis Hall? Why do you think that might be, Charlie? Why do you think that might be, Tim?
These Champions League matches, I'm telling you, it's always these young players who get found out in these big matches. Like I was saying, that Liverpool, that Bulgarian guy they've got or whatever, he got found out, didn't he? That young lad, because he's just he's so light.
Spanish.
He's Spanish.
Yeah.
Sorry. He's so light. He's very lightweight, isn't he? That guy. I mean, he literally looks like he's just left school or something. So he does. Like, he's very skinny, and he got overrun by this Real Madrid. And these players that they have, they've done this so many times before. They have way more pressure than us to win these sort of matches, and they are so much more up for it. And they've got nothing much to play for in the league either. So for them, they will be going in for this with really going for it. And I like I say, look, it'll be. I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be a great game of football, but I just can't see getting anything from it.
Yeah, and it's something that we're going to review next Monday. We'll have 2 games to review. We'll have the Madrid away game, and then we also have the home game against Brighton at the weekend. But let's discuss something else in Chelsea. Financial fair play. Who knew signing all these players for all these shit tons of money is going to cause a lot of issues for the clubs going forward? It's looking like that we might not be able to, potentially spend money without shipping people out. We might have some sort of fines, and worst comes to worst, probably a transfer ban. We've done it before. We brought through the kids in that scenario, but I don't know how much reading you both have done on this. Tem, you probably might have done a bit more, but it's not looking good, is it? Signing all these players, and then all of a sudden it goes to show. I don't think a lot of the problems that we're currently experiencing is based around the manager, but based around the new ownership. And, they're trying to spend their way out of trouble. It just goes to show that money isn't everything in this scenario. It'd be good to, talk me through it, Tim. Like, what for an idiot like me, try and keep it as simple as you possibly can. But what does it mean for us and going forward?
Well, it basically means we've got to sell a shit ton of players for good money next summer, really. We've got to trim the squad down probably to about 20 players. I think most of our incoming straight money would have to be from academy players. I think on the books, that's how it works. If we sell an academy player, it sort of puts us in sort of a profitable sort of position.
Yeah,
I think we would have to make player sales of about 100 million. I think for the last 2 or 3 seasons, we're at 325 million in the negative, really, at the moment. So, player sales this summer is going to be vitally important. And getting those straight transaction fees for our academy players is going to be important. So, it looks increasingly likely like the likes of Mason Mount might be up for sale, really.
Just because he's going to command the largest fee.
Sorry?
It's just because he's going to command that largest fee.
Because if you look at our academy players, I don't think there's anyone within anywhere near the same bracket as his sort of transfer fee. I think Conor Gallagher might be the next best, and that's saying something because
he's not going to reach anywhere that level. I think Conor Gallagher, he's an English player, so we've got the Premier League English player tax, so we're looking at 25-30 million region.
I think we could actually command more. I think we could probably get 35 to 40 million. I think
blows my mind.
Because if you look at it, he still is an England international. He does regularly get called up, although he may not play that many minutes. And that is quite important. I don't know why Southgate seems to love him so much. Maybe it might be that training sort of facilitator, someone who brings the passion, the hard work to the, to training, basically. I think he provides everything you need as a footballer. in terms of passion, work ethic, and that side of the game. However, obviously, quality-wise, we know he isn't good enough to start anywhere.
Yeah.
I think Palace or Everton or someone along that line, maybe even, I don't know, Brighton, Villa, or anyone who needs a footballer in the field.
I think another name as well is probably likely to go out is Hudson-Odoi. I can't see Hudson-Odoi coming back into the team at all at this stage. I think if he wanted to stay at Chelsea, I think he made the mistake going out on loan. But I think he's another name. Again, English player is going to command a larger fee. It'll be interesting to see the players that we'd want to keep that we're very unlikely to retain. It's looking like the players that we want to ship off are the players that might go for the lower fees, which is a shame. Well, chaps, I'm conscious of time. It's just gone over the hour mark here in a scenario. 2 big games come this weekend. Well, hopefully we can talk about something positive next Monday, if we can get something, absolutely anything. But I appreciate you both joining me this evening. This has been the We Talk Chelsea podcast. I've been Tom. He's been Charlie. He's been Tim. We will speak to you all next Monday at 9:30 p.m. Take care.
Take care.